Scan it to submit your questions. Thank you to the organizers for organizing this panel, for inviting us, and for appointing me and trusting me to be the moderator of this panel. I thought of creating an introduction and giving you some background information, but after thinking about it, I decided we should go straight to the point, because what is important is what you have to say and not my setting up the background information. I'd like to start by asking you to give us some context and some background information, and I will guide you with some specific questions. And my first question, and related to the title of this panel, is which is the opportunity we have by using traceability and digitalization process in the whole food chain. And especially, I'd like you to double-click on the opportunities we have for farmers. So first introduction, after that, opportunities. Well, the opportunity we see in all the platforms we are thinking about, the idea is to use the data the farmers already have, and there are some studies that show that every 16 months the amount of data a farmer has doubles. So there is a lot of data, and that is related to what the market is asking for. And there are three elements we have identified, three ways of using the data. Farmers usually say, what am I going to get out of this? So we tell them, okay, what is the data going to be used for, and what is the market that needs it? So first of all, we talk to consumers. We are beyond this storytelling part, all this storytelling about where a cow comes from. This was the first step. And after that, when all the new regulations were introduced in the European community, European Economic Community, and in the US, everywhere, so some regulations are being passed that go beyond the regulations and agreements, sanitary agreements among countries. They may be tariff, non-tariff regulations. Let's not label them, but, well, these are standards or regulations that have to be complied with. And the third area where we believe the data will be monetized faster is the development of financial assets, what we call digital twins. There is a physical asset in the farm, a cow, a silo bag, a tree plantation, and all that may be represented in the digital environment, and that will be used for use cases in the financial system, bonds, warranties, share in the business, etc. So we believe that there is an opportunity here. What we have in between, well, some time has to go by so that everybody will understand how we will be helping and assisting farmers and the markets. We are looking at the chain as a whole, from the farm to those who are going to use the data. There are going to be 2 or 3 stakeholders in between, and these 2 or 3 stakeholders are going to work with the data. I'm going to reverse the question, and this question is for the second Diego. What is the risk or the threat if nothing is done in the digital area? Well, I agree with my colleague that data with a purpose has a value, and taking this from the farm to the market is a huge opportunity. At Ucrop.it, we have been focused from the very beginning in providing traceability to the farmers so that they can reap benefits when that data goes from the farm to the market, so that the data organized for a given purpose may be used to comply with standards and regulations. Those data are valuable for the company using the data. And what is important is data integrity. At Ucrop.it, we have technology, and we check the farmers' data. We really check that the data is complete, accurate, and comprehensive for the companies, the end clients that will be using that information, because all this is free for the farmers. Farmers should be based on evidence. And finally, the laws that have been passed, we've created Ucrop.it in 2018, and all this was voluntary. In the last 15 years, strong regulations have been introduced. We have the AUER, the European Deforestation Directive in the European Community, and we have similar regulations in the US and Canada. But now the standards have become more stringent because there is fear in the world, fear about the greenwashing, which was not on a non-voluntary basis. In the past, greenwashing was considered malicious, a malicious act by companies that wanted to show that they are green. But today, companies, everybody, traders, biofuel companies, companies that sell inputs, are doing everything possible to turn their farming activities into positive activities. But maybe they will commit non-voluntary greenwashing crimes, so to say, because we have to connect the dots with the farmer as the agent for change, and as the European, Latin American, or US regulations say, supporting those data. The farmers produce the data, and they give the right of the company, that they give to the company that is going to use the data, the right to use that data. And that data has to be validated. Based on your opinion, what is the adoption rate of these solutions, and who is driving this, or what is driving this? Is it the farmers, or is it the industry, the demand? What do you think about this? Well, I wanted to complement what the two Digos said. First, I'm from Silo Real, and I'm also a farmer. It's really nice to tell the whole story underlying a crop. Many of you who are near farmers use very good practices, and today the crops or the assets have a history, and we may have a crop with an identity that actually shows what has been what people have been doing lovingly with a lot of effort, and the world actually appreciates this. Sometimes we as farmers are very concerned about production yield and not about what comes after this. That is how we create value with our crops, how we sell them. And today it's able to monetize our actions through information, but creating an identity for our assets. I believe the adoption will grow increasingly faster because it's increasingly easier to do this. In the past, we didn't have the technology, but now, by 2025, in some markets, the buyers will require, or traceability will be a must. So we have obligations and there are business opportunities. If both things come together, adoption will be faster. And we make a small contribution here, the digitalization of silo banks, so that the whole story of a crop that may be verified or checked from new crop, this information goes to the grain and follows along the whole chain. Now, maybe Diego Hotter could expand on this and tell us about what Ucrop.it is. But please tell me what you are doing, what your companies are doing for this process of digitalization and traceability in the agri-food chains, but with the caveat, don't share a marketing pitch because you have great success stories to share with us. So give us one example of what you are doing. We have an algorithm of sustainable production actions and the history of a crop. First, we analyze the polygons that make up a plot, and we rank them or classify them so that they may, so as to find out to what extent the global standards are met by the different parts of each plot or farm, because there are many international standards to be complied with. This is important because USDAPA is also asking for some things. So there are many standards that ask about the sustainability of the farms, producing some crops or products. So we analyze this with our products. And from the sustainability point of view, we'll relate this to the story of the crop so that related to the management of the crop cycle, responsible use of fertilizers, environmental impact of phytosanitary products, all the elements that are related to a crop, carbon usage, water, environmental impact, all that information is linked to the crop, and this is related. This becomes traceability information based on evidence. An example of this is the following one. For a customer such as Costco or another company, we share with them an environmental sustainability analysis for them to be able to export through vessels that carry soybean that has been grown, taking into account the non-deforestation directive passed in the in the European Union. In the past, it would take 5 months to look at this history and have a full traceability. And now it's done in minutes. We do something very similar. Our tool is called Origino. It's a smart contract. And in a given chain, we identify the minimum traceable asset, which is identified, and we use it to take information from point to point, from end to end. This is what our tool does. Our use cases, well, the first one was validated beef. We identify a cow, and we have several brands of beef that are selling their products in Europe with a QR code, and they report about the traceability of each animal. For example, some companies focus on a given race, some others focus on traceability. So each brand decides on the strategy it's going to use and the data it will be taken from the whole chain. We are also working with Velgomaten for Belgium for the traceability of the value chain of barley. For the Belgian market, this is related to carbon emission calculations throughout the chain. From the farm, it's 200 farmers in this case, and they share their contribution by giving information about carbon emissions. And we are working with Matt Barofex to create the first silo bag token that is a digital representation of a silo bag that may be used as a bond for the futures market. But there are many possible ways this could be used. Well, this is using or working in the financial markets. But we may also work with other chains because the assets are present in many value chains, herds, forestry. So all these may become assets in the digital world, and once we work with them, tokens will be issued by way of contracts.
We make available to farmers the technology so that they can create those digital twins. In the case of silo bags, using a phone and 3 pictures, 3 photos, you can automatically add the silo bag. An ID is generated. The satellite will automatically verify and certify that that silo bag does exist, certifies the length and the bagging date. And from the moment of having a silo ID, you can use and update other information and tokenize it. So what the digital twin gives you is having the silo bag in your phone. As we farmers always say, the devil is in the detail, so we can protect that asset because we see it day in, day out. I mean, we can even operate insurance. It was difficult to have a silo bag insurance because silo bags could not be identified or check whether they were present or not. We can sell it to Ucrop people with all the information from Ucrop.it and provide end-to-end traceability and ensure that the Santander people discount that contract to be recalled in November with a good financing rate in US dollars or pesos. So the magic occurs. I mean, from a phone, you can add a silo bag, and from there, we may somehow negotiate better and access funding or put it to other uses. Spectacular. When setting up this panel, I wrote a statement, and I would like to share it with you as a framework for the next question. Some of you said that, it doesn't matter who, said digitization processes will offer different paths and options. Farmers will be able to trace their production in furtherance of different objectives, prove sustainability, leverage financial support and financing. We supply different types of tools that are absolutely supplementary. And in your response, you started talking about that. But I would like you to double-click on that and expand on that information. My first question was when I was told who the participants of this panel were, whether you were competitors, how to approach the talk. So tell us how you supplement each other. You have touched upon that, but go deeper, please, into that answer. I will give you the example I gave before. And I was discussing with Diego in relation to COFCO. When adding a silo bag and digitizing it and identified everything we said, I mean, the story of the crop, which to me is very important for us growers and farmers, because we make a huge effort in implementing best practices. That starts having value. That in the past was somehow lost. It was difficult to follow up, to trace, and more specifically with silo bag, where the harvesting date is different from the delivery date. You may have the seeds for 6 months on the field, so it was difficult to link the crop story for that crop with something that was stored in a silo bag, and you had to certify that it was indeed there. We supplement each other very well with Diego, so that whenever a third party takes that material, it is a seed that travels the world with a given entity. If the silo bag becomes a digital twin after added, it can eventually be used as a credit collateral in the ROFEX market. Let me add the following. All three companies are innovators. We were all founded in 2018, 2019, and we saw there were plenty of that. No one knew that regulations would be in place. Farmers spoke about the fact that there were plenty of that, how to monetize them. We tapped that opportunity, and it's our investors who first believed in us, an idea which has today been implemented, which may or may not be monetized. And first and foremost, this has to do, as Diego said, with the farmer, who is the one that drives change, who generates the data. And then we will all have to establish the relations required to serve our purpose. The data owner is the farmer. The farmer will decide how to act upon that, the farmer and the data buyer. In between, there will be technology evidence, data quality. We will start fine-tuning to see what's valid and what is not, what I like best, what poses the largest risk, the different flavors, so to speak, of the finished product. We may have a finished product that poses no risk, and you may have a finished product that does. That's what will happen. In between, there will be a market assessment to determine what is more or less valid. And in traveling that path, we are gaining new understanding. Maybe we need to talk to each other more, supplement each other. I mean, we are the first, but there will be others that will come up and that will compete with us. So we are innovators. We are in a market that is just developing. This is a toddler stage, and we have a lot to do together. You advanced my next question, but you give me the right prompt. You said data belong to farmers. I have a telephone there with audience questions. I haven't picked it up, but I know that with the question I had for you, I'm killing a question that surely is asked by the audience. That is, who owns the data? And as you were saying that, the audience nodded. It's not necessary, perhaps, to say anything about that, but let me ask a question. What do you do to ensure data safety? At Ucrop.it, we saw it from day one. We worked with Baker and McKenzie, an international law firm that engages in data protection. And the idea is to protect data in all geographies where we do business. We are present in 10 countries. In Ucrop.it, a farmer, as a free application user, builds a crop history based on a license that allows him or her to ensure that the crop history will provide the company with the right to make a statement together with the farmer. This is a very important element. The law says that if the farmer does not make a direct use, I mean, the data has to be evidence-based, based on a purpose. But if that's the case, there will not be a right for the company to make such a statement. So why do we do this? Why is it that the world is based on technology today? Because the farmer has a voice. In Mexico, for example, we are bringing maize traceability to the market. The sustainability indicators are part of the grain box. And why is that important? Because there are different companies having commitments, such as Mondelez, Cofco, any company in the agri-food business and chain. They have the right to say and state and protagonize together with the farmer the shift towards sustainable production. And what matters is that all this should be real. We provide certainty because it's not that we build a model. We look at the technology and assert and validate what the farmer is doing. The point is that all of those companies and even banks may not risk themselves by this not being real. I mean, if you say something, or you say that you're doing something with the farmer affecting the carbon footprint or the water footprint that impacts the environmental impact, that has to be evidence-based. And the farmer must use those data and the stewardship process, which is all that relevant today, and it will be even more relevant in the future. By mean the future is 3 years from now. From the asset management and financing standpoint, that is, make a claim. That claim is co-protagonized with the farmer in exchange for incentives, and that will come fast. Let me add, and I'm fully aligned with that, from Originos and from day one, the farmer owns his or her data and will share them, and the data can be downloaded, they can be deleted. I mean, we may not use the data as a platform. What we simply do is provide a service to the interaction between the farmer and the party to whom the farmer agrees to transfer or endorse the data ahead in the chain. That as far as Origino is concerned. But let me also bring you to another field. I heard a panel from a company which said, send me the data, and I will analyze them, and they have to be good, and this and that. Send me the data. And I was scared to death by listening to that. I mean, first of all, because we are at the opposite end of that spectrum. We have to explain to farmers what is our reference, because you always pop up your head and see what is happening elsewhere in the world. In the States, for example, there is a bureau bringing together all companies that use data. They came together 4 years ago, and there is a self-management institution, a private one, with an agreement on how data will be used. There's best practices, a procedure to use data. And this bureau even analyzes each platform to be used by farmers, analyzes the terms and conditions to see whether they comply with the terms set out by the bureau, to determine whether they will provide or will they treat data properly or not. That's self-regulation. The European community looked at that a year later and started regulating everything related to that. What's the difference? We have private data, those on people which are regulated elsewhere, the ones that you may share or not in Google, banks, whatever, and then there's the other data generated within the farm. These are the ones that are generated using sensors. I mentioned that because that's one case used in the States. If you have John Deere, for example, see what John Deere does in the States with your data. And in the European Economic Community, they protect data generated at the farm level. They are the farmers. And there's a treatment there are regulations in place to share them. And if I change the purpose, they have to report that down. There are processes and protocols in place to manage data. That does not happen in Argentina today. So there is a variety of data, different data supplied, and I invite you all to look at the terms and conditions of all platforms you use. It's a challenge, but it's worth it. If we speak of the farmer's challenge, one thing is understanding and, of course, education on data use, what companies do with those data. Therefore, you will start understanding whether those data are monetized, whether they are used for positioning purposes, for compliance with regulations. What data? I mean, they speak of data, but it's 1,000 data items, but I need just 3, so we'll share those 3. We will go back to that in a minute, but let me... And as an aside, the data question was in the phone. But let me, for a while, act as the devil's advocate. I have heard this a couple of times, and that's why I ask. What I wanted to share with you is this. Yes, the data are mine, but you use them for obtaining a benefit, and the incentive I receive for the use of those data is minimum. So I would like the opinion you have, you three have. I mean, what would you say to the person who says that? We do not use the farmer's data. We link the, we offer the farmer the opportunity of linking the crop history to a given supplier, and the company that will use that crop history for that purpose. That company may use that for complying with a standard or regulation, and it may bring that information to a biofuel, to a grain, to a can, to a grain cup to make a sustainable claim. In exchange of that, the farmer will be rewarded with an incentive and a commercial agreement related to the product he is acquiring or the price at which the farmer is buying, because that information is valuable for the company. We are a catalyst. We are a vehicle that exchange data for a purpose, evidence-based. It's like a sustainable checklist that is handed over to the company. And in addition, the farmer has the crop history to ensure that he or she complies with environmental regulations, which are ever more stringent. The incentive exists. We have had 4 years in operation, and we have 70 customer companies that have rewarded farmers for their crop history because precisely, the data linked to purpose, evidence-based, endorsed by the farmer in blockchains to ensure traceability. They are useful for the company that needs to seize those data, and it's useful for the farmer in turn because by making those data available to the company, they receive a monetary compensation for that. We're full of data, but what for? We at our company try to answer that question.
The digital twin or the digital assets are created with that goal. Somebody, or in order to manage the assets or to use it as a collateral for a loan or to define the origin or to get an insurance policy, well, they create the asset. And once it has, the one who has the power on or who owns that digital twin decides who to share it with and why. And we must be careful because we're talking about money, lots of money. In Argentina, the silo bag business produces $30 billion. It's a lot of money. But simultaneously, we have this opportunity, and I go back to why we have to work in cooperation to give everything sold to the farmer, sharing data between organizations that are already digital. Does away with the task of entering data or digitalizing something. Farmers are sick and tired of entering data, filling in sheets and feeds, etc. So with our approach, we make things easier for the farmers. There is an issue we haven't talked about: opportunities and challenges. That's the title of our panel, and I would like to talk about challenges. I know that what I'm going to say now, and I'd like to know what you think about this, is I'm going to be quite wide, to give you a broad question. Based on your opinions, which are the main challenges there are nowadays so that the penetration of these technologies expands? But rather, which are the challenges for digitalization and traceability of the agri-food chains? Well, what we have realized from the very beginning at our company is that farmers hate having to enter the data twice, and information is placed in different records. It appears in different shades. we have developed a solution that reduces the burden of uploading the data. So the information is checked on a remote basis so that the farmers, so that the information is checked according to the needs of the company that is using that information produced by the farmer, so that the information is useful. So it's very important to reduce the friction and the labor of uploading information for the farmer, so that it's not a cumbersome task. And in our case, the data will be used to check the whole history. But when you remove that friction and you add value, incentive, a goal, when they know who they are going to share the data with and why, this is our goal. Whenever we issue a license, 8 out of 10 are accepted on the spot. And that's important because farmers know. He was saying, read the terms and conditions. We have terms and conditions, and we have licenses that relate the farmers who work with we use blockchains and confidential cryptocurrency. So 3 points. Doing away with the friction of uploading the data, giving them a certainty that they will be the owners and they will be able to control the data and share it with who they want with. And finally, we check the data, because with these 3 elements, farmers always win. And we want farmers to be win, because the only actor in our farming system is farmers. The ecosystem takes what farmers produce to the market. But the farmers have a voice which is becoming increasingly important, and they will be very relevant in this environmentally positive world we are moving towards. When talking about challenges, when uploading data, the challenge is to cut down on costs, and the data has to be reliable, trustworthy, and we have to work on this, because once we have created the path, we will just have to double-click on the data entry points. The data robustness, well, between a person who writes a sworn statement and somebody who issues an e-ticket, there are many steps in between. So this is a challenge to position ourselves to reduce costs as much as possible and provide the information that is properly checked and verified. And another issue, and I go back to the standards and regulations, something which would really help us in the digitalization process is that the digitalization, as we come from the word of blockchain, well, there is a discussion about this right now, because blockchain would be a notary public's office in some places, some countries such as Spain. A lot of progress is being made in working with the technologies and the vendors, because there are legal consequences. Using the technology in a given way has some legal impact. So in the past, you would have a cow that had to be transferred. We had to prepare certain documents. Today, we are dreaming, of course, that cattle would have traceability, and everything should be done through platforms with legal power, because today we tell a judge, I sold 100 cows to Gabriel and I used a token, the judge would tell me, no, bring the printed documents, because today we still need to link the assets to the digital tools and digital evidence. This is important for Argentina, but, for example, but other countries are making progress here too, and Spain is at the forefront of this. We need to do many things to add value, so everything becomes a transfer which is legally binding. When talking about digitalization and data capture, well, I really like to see where the data comes from. We start with of farming, harvesting, harvesters are full of digital information. The same happens with a hopper, but the person who works with me in the silo bag was turning that digital data into a piece of paper. He would take a picture of that information, send it to somebody working in the office. We use that data to complete an Excel spreadsheet, and after that, it was uploaded to the whole system. So it's digital, paper, digital. So we need to have a fully digital process. We to have digital assets for the whole chain. So the challenge is this one. We, from the technology point, should help farmers in their adoption process. There's things they are already doing, and just by linking the dots, they would have a fully digital process. I have a question submitted by somebody in the audience. Please be brief, because I have another question and we don't have too much time left. And I will read this. You have just shown to us that the future is here. What comes after this? I would dare to adjust the question a little bit. Data is a reality related to agricultural production. What do you see in the future, which is a different way of posing the same question? I know you could answer it at length, but please try and be brief. We always say that what we do is digital twins of the value chains. And in the future, well, all transactions that are paper-based today or that are made through phone calls, everything will be digital. It's like the banking system we have today. And everything that is done together today in the agricultural industry or in agriculture should be digitalized. This is our vision. The future has a huge opportunity, so they will be able to sell grain and the sustainable elements related, the sustainability elements related to your crops, carbon footprint, environmentally friendly practices. All those elements will mean money for you, because you won't just be producing food and selling it. You will be producing food, and when you sell them, you will be reducing greenhouse gases, etc. And in 5 years' time, this will change the scenario for agriculture really quickly. And those who understand it will get more funding, more income, and farmers know that growing seasons are a marathon. They are not just one sprint. So those who start with this process earlier will be able to do another kind of agriculture that is positive, verified. This is here, it's happening today, but it will be expanded through the sustainable funding that the world will take up, because going from the forest sector in the world, this forest sector will have a value of $10 trillion a year. This will happen in 4 or 5 years. It's an opportunity to create value and new wealth related to assets which were very difficult to see. It's like moving aside the veil which was hiding these elements, and now there are people willing to pay for this. We also increase our efficiencies in the logistics chain, because, as Diego said, many things can already be done today. And this idea of working in cooperation, that is, technology developers and those who need it, so that together they may create a value proposition. Finally, and look at the timer there, one driving idea, one concept, one closing remark for this panel. One statement, one sentence, thinking about the audience, right? We help you to share the story and to tell the story of your crops so that you may gain value, and we want to give the value back to you. You are the actors of change, the actors of agriculture. You are the innovators. Let us tell your story. Brilliant. Please learn about this, read about this. There are new challenges and news every day here for us and for farmers. And please educate yourselves to find out about the opportunities, to see how you may make the most of those opportunities. I believe that at the next Aapresid Congress we should be talking about opportunities that have already been taken up. This is a big challenge for next year. To close in time, this is the end of the panel. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for talking about this, which is such a complex issue, in a simple way. Thank you very much, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to moderate this panel. Thank you.